Hello, everybody, and welcome to BDC Mastery in Motion, real strategies for closing more opportunities. I am so glad that you are all here. My name is Eric Glass. I'm the AVP of Product Marketing over here at CallRevu, and today we have an amazing chat scheduled for you with Scott, the president and co-founder of Volie, as well as Lily from the CallRevu side. We're going to have a great conversation around, why most BDCs are still missing high-value ROs, how to connect call handling and follow up for better appointments. We're going to get into the metrics that matter and those type of things. I'm very glad that you all are here, but you're not here to just sit here and watch me talk by myself all day. That would be kind of boring. Even I don't entertain myself that much. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in our two guests, Scott and Lily. Welcome to the show, guys. How are you both today?
Doing great.
Excellent.
Doing great. Thank you.
So, Lily, for the audience members that may not know, I know everybody is very familiar with Scott, but why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Lily Melamides. I am the AVP of Technical Solutions here at CallRevu.
Very good. Thank you. And Scott?
Hello, Scott Davis, president of Volie, based out of Fort Myers, Florida.
Awesome.
In Iowa today, though.
In Iowa today,
country.
coming at us live from a hotel lobby, which looks fantastic. I would have never known that was a live background unless you told us. And Lily, you are off on the beach, right? Still?
Yeah.
Very
Down
good.
in sunny Florida, visiting the family.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. And for our audience members, we treat these like live streams. So if you're familiar with, you all have kids like I do, Twitch, YouTube, whatnot, that chat is live and active. And I see everybody saying hello. So hello, everybody. If you have questions throughout the show, please feel free to throw them in for either myself, Scott, or Lily. There is actually a Q&A box over on the right. If you'd rather submit a formal question, you're more than welcome to do that as well. And we are going to have just a fireside chat today. But really what I want to dive into first is we haven't talked, either organization hasn't really talked about it publicly, but I feel like this is a good time to really kind of announce it, is we formalized a partnership between our two great organizations, Scott, not too long ago. I'm very excited about it because I feel like what we offer at CallRevu with our four core pillars around telephony, call tracking and analytics, the training, and then also the reputation management, there's a lot of synergies between what we do and then what you guys do on the follow-up side with the BDC and the proactive outreach and things like that. So I want to give you the chance to chime in on that one as well.
Yeah, very excited to work with you guys. Of course, we've been working with you for the last year with call reputation management and our dealer identity product, your line assurance product, and it's gone quite well. In the case of this, it just made total sense to work together with you guys, with your CallRevu phone system, and with Volie, and we're just kind of pushing up to the starting line. Excited to see where it goes.
Love it. Love it. Lily, anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say it's like one of those you complete me type scenarios where, truly, Volie is the perfect tool, the tool for BDC, whereas CallRevu is the tool for everything else, right? So you now have the best in breed as far as complete and total utter visibility, not only visibility, but now automation. And additional productivity tools with both of us together. So, I mean, this is the true ultimate better together story. And, our customers that are using both of us really have, even educated us as we've been working together, how and why. It just makes so much sense.
I love it. I love it. Thank you very much both for that. So let's go ahead and dive in here. We've got a little bit to get through. And I know we have limited time and I want to be respectful of our audience's time with us. So we're going to start with, what we're seeing out in the wild, because service, the service drive, we all know, we're all very aware of this, gets a ton of calls, but still a lot of those calls aren't resulting in appointments, right? And part of that is the nature, kind of the beast. People might be calling in to check. But that's, where we're going to start with both of you. And the first question I'm going to address to Scott here, and Lily, please, any of these chime in. And like I said, audience, if you have questions or want to hear something specific from any of us, please feel free to put that in the chat as well. But what are most service departments or BDC? Where are they losing revenue on the inbound calls today, Scott, that you're seeing?
I mean, that's kind of a notion of a question there. There's a lot going on in the dealerships, of course. On inbound calls, a lot of it's based around math. And you've got to be able to have the right number of people in the right areas to convert them when they come in. Now, certainly there are also many other tools that are helping them with inbound. But a lot of it comes down to just visibility and be able to handle when it comes in. There's a lot going on in these service BDCs and they have to manage the service scheduler and availability along with having the people in place to convert things. Visibility is important so you can run your business correctly.
If I can just add really quickly,
Absolutely.
I mean, to your point, Scott, most of these service teams are extremely overwhelmed. So just because someone's answering the phone does not mean that the call was actually handled. And that's a really, really big, important difference.
So I think,
yeah. I mean, sorry about that, Eric.
No, you're good.
What's the difference between, when you talk about a lot of these calls coming in, you also can break it down by rep because
Right.
people are busy, and some people handle it better than others. I'm just gonna let you move on from there.
So I think you both mentioned a little bit about it, and Haley, we're gonna be focusing on. I saw your note in the chat there. We'll be kind of focusing on the BDC generally. We are going to slant this a little bit more towards service, but we are planning to do another webinar where we focus on sales BDC as well here in the near future. So thanks for being here today with us. But anyway, so you both kind of touched on it a little bit, right? Some of the blind spots around maybe it's, volume, it's that, but what are some of the bigger blind spots that you both are hearing that fixed ops leaders miss when it comes to tracking and managing phone performance inside of the service BDC?
Yeah. So I would just say, major blind spot is assuming that answered calls equals handled calls. Again, right? Just because someone picked up the phone does not mean that the customer got what they needed. It doesn't mean that, they were able to secure an appointment with them either. Another big piece is connecting call outcomes to actual ROs, right? So the entire follow through and the entire customer journey there, being able to see, okay, they called in. This is the day that they called in. Maybe they had an additional follow-up. And this is the RO associated with, or the appointment associated with that particular customer, and seeing, again, the entire customer journey. Very often, right, customers that don't have these tools that allow for them to have that deep visibility into it, they're just relying on the anecdotal feedback instead of, actually having that real-time data that's, giving them the insight into what's actually happening on the phones.
Yep. And I think, Lily, you bring up a good point there. And Scott, I definitely want to get your input on that question, but I think that's one of where we kind of synergize a little bit with, or not a little bit, a lot with what Volie does is we give you kind of access to that blind spot, or as I put it, as we've started saying around the CallRevu side is, Volie and your front end systems that manage your marketing and everything else. And then you have your Volie on your back ends or your CRMs or your DMSs. We help manage that middle portion, right, where it goes from online to offline and give you that visibility into there. So, Scott, really, from your perspective, what are some of the early warning signs that a BDC is not really operating at its full potential?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. I would further break down some of the numbers that are important for them.
Yep.
First of all, what percentage of calls are revenue calls that they're taking? How many calls are they taking that are service calls, status checks, information calls? I would track that if you can. The best performing dealerships only take about 20% of their calls or less on that.
Sure.
Some of the blind spots in there, when they do transfer to a service advisor, we see, and you guys have very similar numbers when a customer's calling in to try to reach the right person in service. They're not getting connected about 37% of the time when they're going to the service advisor level. I mean, they're really in front. Those guys are in front of customers. So I would, what is your agent drop rate and what is your customer drop rate? We break it out into two separate things. I would, a good agent drop rate with or without Volie is about 6%. The customer drop rate, if you get over a couple percent, you're having a lot of people hanging up. So that to your blind spot, I realize I just skipped the question you asked me, but I wanted to cover the blind spot thing. You need to know those numbers if you're going to run a good service BDC. It's imperative to keep the promises for the people who are trying to do business with you. So can track the number of calls that aren't revenue calls in or out, and then further break them down by why they dropped. And then what you want to do there then is separate out the revenue calls from the other ones and get that closing percentage from the revenue calls that you have. We break that all down. Do your best regardless. I hope there's good value, by the way, even if you're not going to choose Volie today. Some of these things are just basics to keeping the promises for the people who are trying to do business with you.
Absolutely.
And just one other thing, just to add to that too. So Scott, you made a really good point early on in terms of like the repeat callers asking the same questions, right? So the constant cleanup, after the calls or even before, but also I would even go on to say like the high no-show rates for appointments are really important to also understand as well within your dealership. Why are they not showing up? Is it because, your team is too overwhelmed to place those outbound calls because they're dealing with so many other things, right? So, or do you not have a great follow-up, confirmation appointment process built into your BDC?
Yeah, it's all part of the strategy. It's all math. If what we see that if a dealership is really well staffed, they can take 60 to 70 inbound calls and make 150 outbound attempts. If they're mature, if they've trained good agents, that's kind of a basic level.
Is that for agents, Scott?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So, and we see a lot of good stores who are taking more than 70 inbound calls. The average inbound service appointment is 4 minutes and 4 seconds. So you can kind of back through the math there.
Yep.
Hey, I do want, before we get too far on this,
go ahead.
We're going to spend almost all our time on the phones. Volie, there's about 20 million calls in Volie every month. This is a call, email, and SMS platform. We send about 16 million SMSs, or our dealers do. And we send about 10 million emails too. So I'm not leaving those out. They're a big part of the strategy. And if those come up, I see these questions coming up on the side. And but mainly we talk about calls because a lot of what happens with email and SMS, it happens automatically. And we want to make sure that we try to, most of the metrics we're talking about, the agent is on the phone about 50 minutes an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you both kind of answered the next, set of questions here. So I want to dive into, our next topic, right? So even as you guys were saying, even if you answer the call, right, it's what happens after that makes or breaks the appointment. So let's talk about bridging that gap really quickly with the initial conversation that really turns into an RO. So, and Scott, we'll start with you. What does a healthy call to follow-up workflow actually look like in the service BDC?
So you mean you schedule the appointment and then are they coming in?
Yep.
Our best performing BDCs have a process where they're confirming the appointment and via SMS and phone call, and our best performing BDCs have appointment show rates of over 90%. We match up the DMS data when it comes in, so we have good figures on that.
That's awesome. And then Lily, I want to jump over to you real quick. So in what you've been seeing in the market and in going into dealerships with Scott is how are teams starting to use the insights from what we provide in our platform through to the BDC to really ramp up and create better BDC teams. And then, that's kind of like from Service Vision into Volie and then back into using like a test track or another training initiative. to really hone that edge of that knife?
Yeah, I mean, so and I think this is your question, so keep me on track here, Eric. So I think your answer is kind of like the follow up, right? And just understanding what's happening on the call. So within the CallRevu platform, we know exactly what the call was about, right? We know if the customer called in just for a service quote. We know if the customer called in to, complain about something, or if they needed to reschedule, or, just straight up follow up, right? So we understand all of that, and we provide the actionable insights to our customers that allow for them to then improve, or maybe even just, give the kudos to the team for whatever actions it was that they had to take in order to get to the resolution of that particular call. And then, of course, if you drop Volie into all of this as well, right? So again, this is where the complete package comes in, right? So Volie allows for the team then to come in and automate maybe some of those actions, right? So instead of the team being reactive all the time and taking those calls, giving them the service updates, because the callers wants that, or the team is placing all of these outbound calls just to make sure that the appointments are going to show up. Instead, they could use the Volie platform to automate that, and maybe send text messages instead, right? So it's like I said, the complete visibility into everything that is happening within the dealership, and then translating that and transitioning that into, let's build out a plan. Let's figure out how to train the team. Let's get more appointments and more cars into the base.
It's interesting. You brought up a couple of things there that I want to get, Scott's opinions in on, like around personalization and follow up. I think those are two really big things that we're starting to see a lot of. We've been hearing about it for years, right? So how are teams, Scott, that you're seeing, the dealerships you're going into and the Volie customer base, right? How are they using the insights from the initial calls to personalize those, and then not only just personalize them, but create those automated follow-up campaigns instead of just throwing leads into a generic drip, and really making sure that you're touching the customer where and when they are?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is driven by the brand that they're calling on. For instance, we sit on the DMS data. Hey, by the way, just to kind of take a break, am I supposed to answer these questions as they come in? I saw there was one from Michelle.
No. I'll throw them out there, and I'm going to move them.
Okay.
I'm going to move them to the Q&A at the back end. So I'm taking them and submitting them in there. So we got you.
Okay. So when it comes to personalization, I'll just take a Toyota store, for example. We sit on the data. We will take the DMS data. We dedupe it. We household it. We combine it with the other data that they upload, like maybe from the Toyota Leo portal, et cetera, for TLE, et cetera. And then the dealer is going to put a strategy together that basically, and it might work something like this. So inbound calls, of course, we know who's calling 83% of the time. You will personalize what they're driving, who they are. The scripts for inbound and outbound merge in the data perfectly. And then when they're not on an inbound call, they're going to serve up an outbound call, and it's going to fit for the customer's life cycle, for the brand, et cetera. So Toyota might be something like, after an inbound call, they're going to call their TIS leads first. If there's none available, they'll move to first service, active at risk, inactive. And it just goes from record to record. You factor in their mileage, their time, and that's how you personalize and put a strategy in place that will help them convert.
Yeah. Lily, anything to add there?
Nope. Scott said it.
And Sequoia, I think I'm not Sequoia. I can't. I'm not going to try because I don't know. I don't want to mess that word up too much. Text is very successful in direct trade. I echo that sentiment. Right. We see a lot of great success with text, and I think there's a big play with making sure that you're holding your teams accountable to following up on those texts, and then making sure that you're getting those numbers in. I think really most managers, as we drive in here, have all of the dashboards to give them what they need, but not all of them are using that visibility in there So we're going to talk a little bit about, making sure you're using the data appropriately to actually help your teams improve, right? Lily, you've worked in a lot of different organizations. I've worked in a lot of different types of organizations, and having tools to just have tools is not a strategy, right? You can layer as many tools as you want in there, but unless you're really using the data in a meaningful way to drive performance improvements, having a tool is just like having, what my garage looks like. I've got 100,000 tools in there that I never use. So, really,
at my house too.
Yeah.
What are some of the KPIs for you both as we drive into this? And Scott, you can go first.
Yeah. Well, just to address the text part, every dealer should, if providing they're compliant with TCPA laws, etc. Every dealer should be using text as a strategy. It is something, though, that people consider the phones passe. Of course, the phones are you guys' business. You guys get it. The phones are still the best way to interrupt someone. And just to run through some math on that, when we see the texts nearly all get read, they get sent, but the response rates, well, for instance, we work with about 900 dealers in the U.S. With Volie. We also have quite a few vendors that use us. One of them does nothing but text for recalls, very important text. The response rate on that very important text was 18%, including back and forth. So it's less than 18% of customers. I would always use SMS with a multi-channel strategy with email and phone calls. If, for instance, just to walk through the math, if you have line assurance or you have dealer identity, what's what we call it with Volie, on a 4-attempt service retention campaign, you are going to have a blended answer rate of 35%. So that is 50% the first time, 25 on attempt 2, 20 on attempt 3, 15 on attempt 4, roughly. So that means that if you enroll 100 people in a service campaign, you are going to speak with 70 of them. It'll take about 290 attempts. You need to very quickly go through that. What is a good response rate for that? Generally, our best performing BDCs convert about 30% of the people outbound that they talk to. 95% is the top box, but about 90% on inbound revenue calls. So
awesome. So Scott, in that, what are some of the most critical KPIs that BDCs often ignore in there that they should be paying attention to?
Well, first of all, if it were my BDC, I'd want the answer rate on inbound to be, I'd want to have a drop rate of at least 6 or 7%. I'd want to call back 100% of them. If you do call back, 58% answer, 59% schedule an appointment. These people are buyers. We match that data, and 70-some% of those people, 74%, have a previous appointment that we were able to match if they're calling from a different number. So it's a high number. So take care of the people who are trying to do business with you. Track that inbound conversion percentage from that drop rate. And then on outbound, a lot of it is just simply math. So we like to see at least for a mature BDC, and it takes them a while to work up to that pacing, but at least 2 outbound attempts for every 1 inbound call they take.
Yep.
So the math would be 100 attempts, 35% answer rate. The average appointment per outbound attempt is 7.2 appointments per 100 dials. Outbound is math and making people feel comfortable. So those are the key KPIs. Make sure you're making the people happy who are trying to do business with you, and then get the people in who either aren't going to come in or who aren't going to come in as fast. And that's service retention.
Yep.
Scott Davis, stat man, everyone.
I love it. So Lily, real quick, how do the real-time call insights that we're providing help the managers intervene before a pattern becomes a problem, right? And affects those rates that Scott was talking about?
Yeah. So, so CallRevu, right? We surface the issues on calls as they happen. So, if an agent is consistently missing appointment opportunities, if a call, came in and was not answered, and the customer did not leave a voicemail, right? If there's, some challenges around like mishandling price objections, like those types of things, right? That is what we have the visibility into and how we're able to help them. So, if you don't have that, it means that, you're not really coaching proactively, you're coaching reactively, right? So that's it. Yeah.
And thank you for that, Lily. And how have you guys both seen that feedback loop change when a manager, and Lily, since you're up on the camera, we'll start with you.
Sure.
But how have you seen that feedback loop change when a manager has insight into both the conversations and the follow-up outcomes?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, they're stepping in early, they're reinforcing best practices, they're helping the agent course correct in the moment before it becomes a true issue, whether it's a revenue issue, customer satisfaction problem, et cetera. So that's huge, right? The real-time actionable insights, and then the real-time coaching and feedback loop. If you're constantly, again, in that mode of, catching up and trying to do a million things at once, it doesn't happen, and you're losing, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And Scott?
If you don't have the data, how do you know how to run your business?
Right.
So, and think, gosh dang it, think of the last time you actually went anywhere and had good service, right?
Oh my gosh.
So I always look at Chick-fil-A, and the food's okay. But really, I pull up to Chick-fil-A, the lines around the building, but I know that I'm going to get through the line pretty quickly, and I know that the crap that's supposed to be in my bag is going to be in the bag. I have confidence. Well, if you don't have these data insights in your BDC, and you're not able to communicate with your agents, how do you train them to give them the confidence to project that to your customers, so that they're confident giving you their most or second most important purchase to work on besides their house? So those insights are vital. Things like script adherence. You need to really drill script adherence until you're confident they don't need the script, because no agent, inbound or outbound, is going to kind of maybe shoulda make someone feel comfortable about scheduling their vehicle. So those insights are vital. They're pretty much all the way around, staffing levels, and then converting the people that you can. If you don't have that information, your typical BDC agent costs $18 an hour for service BDC, plus you pay a bonus, plus you pay benefits. That's about $4,350 a month. If you don't know those insights, and your average RO is $350, depending on the brand, it ranges. Every miss you have is really punitive. Think about that. So you have to have them, or how are you going to grow?
Yep. Thank you very much for those. So let's talk a little bit about, I know this is a topic that's on both of you, is on our minds at CallRevu. It's on your mind, Scott. I know with the staffing challenges, most teams are asked to do more with less. Constantly, and with the current, we're still having some economic headwinds. There's that little tariff thing that's going on with everything else. So let's talk about how it's possible, when you've got the right systems in place, to really scale without adding that headcount. And Scott, I think we'll start with you. Where have you seen automation make the biggest difference in a BDC's output or consistency?
Yeah, let's just take for granted that the days of selling to dealers and saying, "Oh, it's only one more car sale. Don't worry, just pay for it. It'll work." We need to take for granted that there has to be a tangible benefit in labor. You're gonna, through automation, a lot of the ways that Volie helps customers is by eliminating what to do. Essentially in service, where you're service CRM will serve up the next call. The agents aren't fiddling through who to call next. All the information's there. Same thing with inbound. Having that information right in front of the person will save about 25% on the inbound handling. So automating the simple things where you combine communications with data make your agents much more efficient. So that's one way we see it. Obviously inbound through AI is another way to make it more efficient.
100%. And Lily, that kind of tees up. Thank you, Scott. Excellent segue there. What role does mobile access or after hours coverage play in supporting service continuity across the board?
Yeah, 100%. So, a great example that I like to use, right? You get out to your car on a Sunday afternoon and, your tire's flat or it's not starting for you or something else, right? So what happens? If you don't have any type of after hour support, right? Whether it's scheduling via a scheduling tool online, whether it's a, answering type service for the after hours, you've potentially missed out on an appointment, because what happens? I then have to wait until Monday morning, hopefully get someone. I know that your BDC agents are going to be extremely busy Monday morning because everyone else had issues over the weekend. And if I don't get an appointment right away, if someone doesn't answer my call, what happens? I just move on to the next one. This actually just happened to me not too long ago. I had to bring one of our vehicles in for service. I called 3 different dealerships. The first 2 dealerships, it took them over 2.5 hours to get back to me just to schedule an appointment. And the third one could not get me in for at least 5 or 6 days, right? I mean, at least just get me in, right? So, and for me, unfortunately, in that particular instance, my car was out of warranty. I didn't have any loyalty to any of these service centers. So having the after hour support, having, the convenience and the ability to get out there and get in and do all of the things. We're living in, an Amazon world where everybody wants everything right then and right now. Make sure that you have a plan in place, even if it's just simply, a voicemail system. Make sure that your team has a plan, has the, ability to go in and, has that workflow going so that they know, hey, these are the top priorities for our Monday morning.
Yep. Well, you need to come down here and go to my Toyota dealership. They've had my business for 20 years now, because that is not the case at all. But anyway, how does Volie help fixed ops teams manage high volume campaigns like recalls or declined service follow-up, without overwhelming the staff?
Yeah, so it's all part of their greater strategy. Every call has a priority in Volie. We also manage the number of attempts, the calling windows, all those things. You are going to put things in place to not over communicate with customers, and the system just it manages it. I hate to say it's no work, but it's pretty much no work.
Yep.
You set it up and it runs in the order that they wanted. I just to talk about Lily's deal, because it just pains me to hear about the frustration you have, and it's indicative of how hard it is the BDC agents have, because you needed to get in. Does the agent or does the BDC have a good walk-in policy when it's deemed an emergency by the customer? Do you have plans in place or contingencies when and the CallRevu alerts or some of the things that we do will alert them to this? But it's just
we're not
indicative.
CallRevu or Volie customers, by the way.
Yeah, well, they certainly should have the data to see that you deemed it was important, and they need to get you in, or you're going to go somewhere else. And the agents need to be trained that, gosh, my service schedule says it's full, but I can't tell this guy 5 days. So those are the insights that you need to grow your BDC, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I mean, it's training, but it's also empowerment as well, right? So I always say technology can't replace good people, right? So just making sure that your staff has the training, have the tools, they're empowered to make decisions that are in, the best interest of both your customers, but also your dealership as well. That is so important. So I'll stop. We can get off the soapbox and move on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, just the question about, I did want to talk about converting with these customers, because one of the questions is, would you text a customer if they did not book an appointment? When we recently looked at 25 million calls, and there were 970,000 people that the dealer's agents the customer told them not interested. Looking forward 120 days, 28.8% of them came in within 120 days. A much larger percent of that went elsewhere either. You have their history. To answer your question, first of all, when they tell you no, 100% of your customers need service. So your no is really a not right now. So
Right.
teach your agents you've got the data, whether you have Volie or not. You saw when they come in again the last time. Maybe they're on vacation. Maybe maybe this just isn't a good time, but they need service and they need help from you. So teach your agents just to nicely ask one more time after they tell you no. Is this not a good time? I see you came in 6 months ago. When should I call back to get this booked? Because they need help. To put things in place about automatically texting them afterwards, no brainer. These things are all part of automations because your goal is to serve the customer and you want to make it easy for them.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So let's go ahead and move into our final section of the conversation today, because I know we're getting close.
Man, I didn't even know we made it past the first section. I've not followed your script at all. Sorry about that.
See, I told you during the rehearsals this is how this was going to work. And I apologize. My green screen is being weird now. I don't know what happened to my camera, but we're doing this live, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, looking ahead on the, what's on the horizon for service departments and really leveling up their BDC. Scott, what's one trend in fixed ops customer expectations that BDCs need to be thinking about now so they're ready for when it rolls down the pipe, maybe in 3, 6, 9, 12 months?
I guess the one thing that we're looking at as a trend is consolidation of tools and et cetera. So we are not only working on all of the other tools that you would need to be a one-stop shop for the BDC, whether it's AI or some of these other tools that are out there. We're also very aggressively integrating with all the other tools that they might need. So this is a one-stop shop. The biggest trend I see is simplification, and that's what we're focused on. Very good,
Lily.
I just touched on it before, right? The instant access, right? The Amazons and the Ubers of the world, right? Making sure that you've gotten some self-service options out there and available for your customers. And then I also said just making sure that your BDC team moves from just straight up appointment setters and message takers to like true customer experience enablers, right? Giving them the tools, making sure that you're providing an experience so that you are actually building and getting and maintaining that customer loyalty. You probably already have very loyal customers. Let's continue to build on that. One of our premier customers that I absolutely love out in California, I'm not going to say their name, but it's actually a mutual customer of ours. Scott, I know that you know who I'm talking about. I was invited to a meeting with his entire fixed ops team a couple of weeks ago, and a stat that he threw out there, that just floored me, that I guess it just didn't even dawn on me. But he said that the average customer lifetime spend with their dealership is just over $350,000. Okay. Again, we're thinking, and we always think about this. We always say this, being that we're in auto, right? 2 largest purchases you will ever make: your car and your house, unless you're Scott and you're buying yachts and whatever else, right? But that's it right there. So create the experience, build that loyalty.
100%. So awesome. This was great, guys. We got a couple of questions. We're going to transition to those as we move into the last 5 minutes of the call here. So the first one is from Siwar, and hopefully I apologize if I said that wrong. We've already gone over that. I don't know how to speak. Is there a way to, and I think this is Scott for you, is there a way to reroute calls that get sent to voicemail that can be automated to an email?
So they get sent to a voicemail, and you want to queue up an email for the customer, or
yes.
We don't currently do that in Volie. How we handle the calls to voicemail is we transcribe them. We automatically queue them up for callback. I want everyone to like me, so I don't want to disagree with the question.
Nope, you're doing great.
I want to make it easy to very quickly get back to the customer when you're not on an inbound call. So our strategy is to serve it right back up to the agent. Emails, their response rate is lower, and it's not a bad idea. I think it's just part of the strategy. We don't currently do that.
Yeah, I think about when I look at my Gmail every morning, that just check, mark all as read, and then I move on. Because that is, let's not get into that. Anyway, the next one here from Michelle, and I think this is for both.
Really quick question, or really quick response to that. So I will say this. So here at CallRevu, we do have a solution that could help, right? So again, could blend the Volie system, the CallRevu system, right? Whether it's hosted phones, having the visibility into the voicemail, and then also potentially just sending an automated response either via text message or via email. So there are a couple of ways to do that. It's really just a matter of, again, what you want your customer experience to be, and how your customer prefers to be communicated with.
100%. And then this next one is from Michelle, and this is, I would love to hear your thoughts on both of you on this. As a new BDC manager, where is a great resource for tips on training and helping my BDC team gain confidence to become strong agents? So Lil, I'll start with you on that one.
Well, first I want to say congratulations. I was there. I started out there many, many moons ago. So, at the training piece, right? I think biggest thing, right, especially being new to this role, is ask questions, right? Admit, let's start out from the bottom and, understand, look, we don't know everything. Give yourself some grace. Know that you're going to make mistakes. Some great resources out there, right? So, I can tell you about specific tools, but then I can also, even point you to some additional resources. So first and foremost, let's talk about AI. Right. So between the chat GPTs of the world that can give you some really interesting, feedback and strategies and such, around maybe some of the things that are happening. CallRevu also has an amazing training platform as well called Test Track that we mentioned before. This is not a test track conversation at all, but that can, help provide some training. And, our team also can work with you to help understand, okay, what are your goals? And we can help align your goals with a true strategy and put that in place. And then going to Scott, right, and the Volie team also has an exceptional BDC training tools as well. So when you become a Volie customer, as well as a CallRevu customer, we both have universities, if you will, for, the call handling pieces, also, different strategies of how to build out those campaigns. So, Scott says this, and I know Scott doesn't like saying that it's easy, right? Because it sounds funny, but it's the honest to goodness truth, right? Like, it's literally just pressing a couple buttons, taking all of the guesswork out of, okay, how are we going to build these campaigns? How are we going to, manage all of these crazy tasks that we have every day? So finding smart tools to put in place, and then it allows for you to lift off, some of the more mundane tasks and focus on, okay, how can we increase and build out our revenue? And then of course, how can I, make myself a little bit better? But go to the industry. If you can get out there and if you can, socialize with some of the other BDC managers out there, a lot of us would be happy to help you. Also connect with me on LinkedIn. We can talk through it. Would love to chat with you.
Scott?
Well, how can I top that answer?
I know it's a tough one.
She spoke for like 5 minutes.
Oh, look who's talking, Scott.
Yeah, they do. We have a good training program. There's a ton of good trainers out there, but really, just start out with the basics and work hard to keep your promises to your customers. We always look at there's 3 phases. If you're a new BDC manager, just start by making the people who are happy, who are trying to do business with you, and you'll figure out the most. It's a hard job. Heck, everyone is your boss. The customers who call, the service advisors, so, but good luck and you really can make a big impact. So congratulations and any way we can help.
So we got time for one more, and it just came in from Brittany. If you're new to the auto industry and managing BDC, how do you know what goals to set?
Yeah, of course, there are a lot of the normal goals in BDC, at the macro level, whether there are, your RO count, if you're growing, you get a percentage of the credit or the blame when that doesn't go well. Just kind of off topic here, though I'm not an Alabama football fan. Nick Saban was the greatest college football coach ever because he always focused on, instead of the outcome, and the outcome's important, right? But he always focused on the next play, the next series, etc. That's kind of how I would focus my BDC. So break down inbound calls by how successful you are, what your drop rates are. On outbound, start breaking. If you can do one thing to grow your BDC, and you don't need Volie for this, benchmark inbound calls separately from outbound and start measuring some of the behaviors that you want. So inbound, how good are we doing helping the customers you're trying to do business with? Outbound, 100 calls, 35 conversations. What is my conversion to appointments? Start with some of those basic things, and you'll make an impact.
Absolutely. Very good. Well, that is all the time we have for today. So thank you very much, Scott and Lily, for joining me on this episode of The Inside Track. Make sure to pay attention to your emails. We'll be sending out the link to the recording. So if you missed any part of this or you want to watch it again, go ahead, and this will be posted to the Inside Track podcast feeds on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere that it can go. So if you want to follow us over there and give us a subscribe and a listen, that would be very welcome as well. Again, thank you for joining us today and spending some time. We hope to see you next time, and take care, everybody. Thanks, Lily. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, team.